expect. And I want to offer all of you who put your hands up the same advice. You're here, and you're going to find the others. I promise. You're going to find the others. All right, 2 to 5 years ago is when you found out this was your calling. 5 to 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, 20 plus years ago. If you can, by a show of hands, for how many of you has this calling been 20 plus years in the making? Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for extending the runway of what's possible for the rest of us. I began my journey informally 15 years ago, but formally 10 years ago, when I suffered extreme burnout at the hands of a toxic leader. More on that in just a few moments. Next question for you. What is one challenge that's calling for you to step up right now? You've all selected a session in the Step Up track for leaders. What's one challenge that's calling for you to step up? Leadership dynamics, workplace bullying, budget cuts, the war on DEI. There's a great session about that later tonight. Growth and development, keep it coming. Authentic recognition. By the way, this is completely anonymous, so if the answer is your boss, by all means, let this be cathartic. HR burnout, leading during difficult financial times, culture change, resistance to change, impacts to productivity, senior leadership, okay. Development. It's giving chaos, I must say. And so I have to ask this next question in light of everything that we're seeing on these screens. Do you feel hopeful about the future? Do you feel hopeful about the future? Do you believe a better and brighter tomorrow exists? Mostly yes, but I have some concerns. Interesting. Yes, absolutely, the future looks bright. I'm on the fence, could go either way. Do you feel hopeful about the future? If you answered affirmatively to that question, I am sincerely happy for you. Hold on to your inner child and protect them at all costs. Because as you're about to learn, you happen to be in the global minority. There I was 2 months ago at a construction leaders conference, when 5 minutes before taking the stage, I received a frantic tap on my shoulder. I whirl around, and towering over me is Will, the company's chief operating officer, visibly out of breath, sweating through his shirt. And he says to me in a raspy voice, "Hamza, I forgot to tell you something." Which is the last thing you want to hear 5 minutes before you take the stage. I go, "Will, what's up?" And he says, "Man, at least 75% of this audience are extreme skeptics." True story. And I instantly go, "Will, that's a good thing, right? Like, we're in learning and development. I would hope that people here are skeptical. I'm skeptical, you're skeptical, what's the problem?" And he goes, "Hamza, these skeptics, they not like us." I said, "Will, man, what do you mean?" And he goes, true story, "These are skeptics of the flat earth variety." Oh, okay. Two thoughts are running across my mind. Number one, Will, I wish you would have told me this 6 months ago, right? And secondly, flat earth construction leaders. I got so many questions. Before I have even a second to process how I'm going to pivot, I hear my name, I step on stage, and it immediately occurs to me that I'm about to bomb. Because this particular presentation was about the evolution of leadership psychology. You know where this is going. The minute the word evolution left my mouth, so too did the oxygen in the room. Eyes rolled to the back of people's head. There were audible gasps. Nobody was laughing. People walked out. It was a disaster. My self-esteem has yet to recover. But being an unapologetic idealist, being an unflappable optimist, I ended on a very hopeful note. And I was greeted afterwards by people who had such great questions, and we had such impassioned conversation about the subject. I remember one conversation very vividly. It happened with a woman who bore a distinct, uncanny resemblance to a young Reba McEntire. And we love Reba, by the way. She comes up to me with a sheepish expression and she extends her hand very slowly and she says to me in the most charming, musical southern voice, she says, Hamza. Like summoning a superhero. And I clasp her hand with both of mine and I say, hello. And she says, I'm Sherry. I say, I'm Hamza. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for being here. How can I help you? And she goes, well, Hazma. This time like the respiratory illness. Well, Hazma, that was a good talk, but that's another thing you don't want to hear as a speaker. But what, Sherry? But it was too dang hopeful. Too dang hopeful, Sherry? For 30 minutes, I just spoke about how every leader possesses subclinical levels of narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. And unregulated can destroy organizations from the inside out. What the hell did you find hopeful about that? And she goes, oh, that's all fine and dandy. It was the way you ended the presentation. You said, lead with hope. And I happen to vehemently disagree with it. Now, not being one to pass up on potential constructive criticism from someone who might be a flat earther, I said, Sherry Ann, tell me more, man. And she began to explain her day. She said, I start my day, by the way, I'm just keeping on with Zach's thing, right? I'm already at the deep now. I start my day every morning by looking up above my desk and I see a poster that says, hope is not a strategy. And every morning, I march to my team and I say the same thing in my stand-up meetings. I say, team, hope is not a strategy. And as she's saying this, two thoughts are crossing my mind. Number one, who hurt you, Sherry Ann? This is no way to live. And secondly, is your team okay? Because what I wish you knew, my friend, is that what your team needs right now more than anything else in the world, they need hope. They need to believe that the future is going to get better. They need to hold out possibility for a better and brighter tomorrow. People need hope. People need to see beyond today. Y'all need hope. I need hope. Folks, I was just in New York where I purchased a carton of eggs for $10. These weren't even the good eggs. These were 3 days away from expiration. They were in a flimsy styrofoam container with a sticker that said, I kid you not, occasional outdoor access. I need hope. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in the WWE, The Rock and John Cena are now certified bad guys. I have lived long enough to see my heroes become villains. Y'all, I need hope. And a TV show about literal disassociation from work, Severance, a reflection of how disengaged employees are in a dehumanizing workplace, has leapfrogged Ted freaking Lasso, the paragon of positivity, to become the #1 TV show on the planet. I need hope. It turns out that hope is the #1 need of the world's employees, but don't just take Hamza's word for it. Gallup found a survey published earlier this year of 72,000 people across 52 countries that more than hope, more than compassion, more than stability, hope has emerged as the #1 need for the world's employees. And who exactly do they need hope from? Well, they need it from a whole array of leaders. They need it from CEOs, they need it from prime ministers, they need it from presidents, they need it from pundits, imams, priests, rabbis, but second only to their own families, they need hope from us. People leaders, the people who account for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement. They need hope from us. Which begs the question, at a time like this, when we're being asked to do more with less, at a time like this, when for the first time in 12 years, leader engagement has dropped, at a time like this, when everyone is feeling some level of overwhelm, do we have what it takes to give our employees what they're asking for? What they're practically begging for? Can we step up right now? I believe the answer is yes. I'm very hopeful that we can, but it's not going to be easy. Because during times of uncertainty, leaders don't actually step up. It's a misconception, an optical illusion. What actually happens is leaders sink to the level of their training. And therein, my friends, lies the rub. Most leaders are insufficiently trained or not trained at all. Most leaders are accidental leaders. The Chartered Management Institute reckons that 82% of leaders have received no formal leadership training. Just think of that another way. Imagine you're lying on an operating table and a nurse lets it slip to you that 82% of the doctors in this hospital have not gone to med school. This is playing out in our workplaces right now. And here's why this is important, because we know that the foreseeable future is anything but certain. And we are passing through arguably the most uncertain time in human history. This is best described by Pulitzer Prize-winning father of sociobiology, Dr. Edward O. Wilson, who said, "The problem humanity faces is that we have Paleolithic emotions, crumbling medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And it is terrifically dangerous." Gotta love the paradox. Evidence of these tectonic shifts are visible in the very zeitgeist itself. I'm a word nerd, and zeitgeist is my favorite word. 19 points in Scrabble, by the way. It means the general intellectual, moral, and cultural climate of an era. Essentially, what it feels like to be alive. Let me ask my fellow humans, what does it feel like to be alive right now? In one word. If you had to pick one word that captures the spirit of the age, what would it be? Overwhelming, scary, crazy. A whirlwind, stressful, anxious, unsure. Unsettling, stimulating, joyful, lucky, uneasy. Troubling, endless opportunities, exhilarating. What a beautiful word cloud. Somebody wrote, hard. Interesting. Very interesting words are popping up on this word cloud. So if Workhuman Live were to publish their annual word of the year, it's safe to say that it would probably be uncertain, scary, maybe chaotic, chaos, or stressful. As a word nerd, every year I wait with bated breath for large linguistic societies and dictionaries to publish their word of the year, which in my humble opinion are the most honest reflection of how humanity is feeling at any time. These were the most recent selections. Top words of the year. Number 1, brat. Number 2, brain rot. Number 3, polarization. Number 4, raw dog. Bet you didn't think you would hear that at Workhuman Live. In Woodstock of HR. My favorite word, ready for this one? Shitification. What a word. Let's zoom in on this one for a second. Shitification. The gradual deterioration of a service or product brought about by a reduction in the quality of service provided and as a consequence of profit seeking. So if you've ever dealt with Air Canada customer service recently, Air Canada, I'm sorry. See the Canadians nodding their heads. I'm playing. You know shit's bad, pardon my language, when shitification is a word of the year. And so is it any surprise that our dear Chériette has foreclosed the possibility of a hopeful tomorrow? She says hope is not a strategy, and I kind of understand. Maybe now you kind of understand why. It may interest you to know that the word zeitgeist has a second meaning. In original German, Zeit translates to time, and Geist translates to ghost, time ghost, something from the past that can haunt us, that can haunt dear Chériette in the present and well into the future, like outdated management paradigms, which I spoke about last year in Oslo. Outdated management paradigms which would have us, during times of change, sink to the level of our training, which for many leaders, unfortunately, is non-existent, and then react with fear instead of respond with hope. That would have us compete with one another when we should be collaborating with each other. That would have us oppress our fellow human beings when we should be liberating them. Now, when you factor in time ghosts into godlike technology, medieval institutions, and human brains that haven't received a significant hardware upgrade in at least 10,000 years, and we all sink to the level of our training, and of course it all feels like the future is anything but promise. Everything feels chaotic. Nobody can accurately predict what's going to happen next, least of all, our dear Chériette, who has said hope is not a strategy. Based on what she shared with us, here's how I imagine her morning meetings start. For some reason, I picture Sherry Ann pouring a shot of Bailey's into her coffee. She takes a swig, she looks up above her desk, and she says, Vince Lombardi, you right. Vince Lombardi, you right. Hope is not a strategy. And then I imagine she marches into her morning meetings, and she says, team, good morning. As we know, hope is not a strategy. What do you got for me? And depending on how psychologically safe her team feels, they're going to lay it on, or they're going to say, we're burning out. Tariffs on, tariffs off. We're in a recession. Oh my God, artificial intelligence is coming for our jobs. Everybody's disengaged right now. Sherry Ann, there's a fight happening in the parking lot, 100 men versus 1 gorilla. It is wild. And Sherry Ann is overwhelmed. Like I said, during times of change, we sink to the level of our training. She sinks to the level of her training, and she has to make a decision. At a subconscious level, will she react with fear, or will she respond with hope? And at least 82% of the time, she's going to react with fear. And this is why this is a problem. When we react with fear, we do the most counterproductive thing that we can do as leaders. We stop leading, and we restart managing. And we're supposed to manage things, right? We're supposed to manage budgets, events, and processes, but people, as we know, people, humans, are meant to be led. When we react with fear, we stop acting together, and we start acting alone. And on top of that, we invite into our workplaces organizational darkness. Now, I realize this might seem a little dramatic, maybe far-fetched, so let's examine the zeitgeist in real time, shall we? I would love it if you could open up your phones right now, go to a browser window, go to a search engine, and just type in, my boss is. And don't finish that search query. Let the auto search results that are geofenced reveal to you what the average employee thinks of their boss. What are you finding? Shout some things out.
Secret sperm donor.
What? Wait, what?
My boss is my secret sperm donor.
Oh, and
That's what someone else said. It's a little
is not fun in Spanish.
How come my first one came up with sperm
It's my
donor?
secret husband.
Ooh.
yeah, why do we get in the secret
My
husband?
boss is like, oh no, I'm listening.
Yes, I got that too.
So,
How come I'm
by now,
My
you
boss
see
is
such
like,
search results as,
okay, good.
my boss is my secret husband. My boss is my secret sperm donor.
There you go.
My boss is a werewolf. Right? My boss is toxic. My boss is gaslighting me. My boss is abusive. The list goes on. On average, negative search results associated with my boss is as a search outweigh positive ones by at least 400%, revealing the tenuous relationship between employees and the current zeitgeist, with bosses as the representations of the medieval institutions, the gatekeepers of the godlike technology. But just as easily, my friends, as we plunged into organizational darkness, so too can we emerge from it. Here's how. I would love for you, if the answer to any of these questions is yes, to turn on your phone's flashlight for me, okay? And if you turn your phone's flashlight on, keep it on. So the first question I have for you is as follows. Are you sitting beside your boss right now? Oh, this is gonna be awkward. Keep your phone's flashlight on, all right? My next question for you is, do you happen to like your boss? No, don't turn them off, right? So, okay, good. His lights are coming on. How about this one? Do you happen to love your boss? Oh, spicy. Is your boss your secret husband?
Yes.
Some lights actually came on. By the way, keep your lights on if you have turned them on at some point. A few more questions for you. Do you like your coworkers? Do you like your clients? Do you like the work that you do? Do you like this gathering here of like-minded HR champions, bold leaders, and change makers? Right? My friends, just look behind you right now. Take a look at that. Incredible. That's all of you. Thank you so much, by the way. I hope that this visual stays with you the way it's staying. What you have demonstrated in this moment is your ability to restore organizational brightness. How did we do this? Individually, we turned on our phones' flashlights, but the reason this room was illuminated the way that it was is because we did it together. Exactly. We did it together. Now, some of you are probably wondering, yes, Hamza, I understand the metaphor, that's all cool, but how does turning your phone's flashlight on translate to keeping the lights on at my organization, at my nonprofit, at my school, at my agency? Fantastic question. You're essentially asking, does hope actually work? Y'all, it really works. I think what I'm about to share with you right now is the closest thing that we have found to a cure-all for the disengaged worlds. Hope, when operationalized and maximized, produces a cascade of positive results. Everything from thriving to productivity, ambition, loyalty, innovation, commitment, balance, health, resilience, motivation, and enthusiasm can be turbocharged by giving our people what they're asking for, like I said, what they're practically begging for. So if there's any takeaway from this session, I would like for it to be this: lead with hope. And when somebody says to you, hope is not a strategy, have compassion for them. Understand that they're probably going through it right now. What they actually mean is that hope alone is not a strategy. And I think they'd be right. But hope plus action, boy oh boy, that is a blueprint for a better and brighter tomorrow. Hope without action is just a dream. Action without hope is a dead end. Leadership development is a $366 billion industry, and it has brought us to the following dead end. This is where we ended up after all this work. But it may please you to know, I sleep well at night knowing that children, the literal embodiment of a better and brighter tomorrow, of the future, are experiencing concurrently a very different zeitgeist. Every year, Oxford studies 25,000 stories written by children and examines approximately 3 million words to look for themes. Here's what they found is the most recent children's zeitgeist: kindness, friend, hope, love, and play. So concurrent to our reality, a better way is possible, and that dream is being held by your kids, by our inner children. And we have the ability to operationalize and maximize this way of thinking by doing something quite bold today, by reconnecting with this person. This boy was unafraid. This boy only saw possibility. This boy was unburdened by fear. And all of you have the ability to get in touch with the little person inside each and every single one of you. And I believe that this moment, this gathering, is so special. It is imperative because it gives us the opportunity in a safe environment to upgrade the default program, which we know we're going to sink down to, so that when the next crisis happens, and best believe it will happen, that we actually step up, that we actually are able to reinvent leadership for peace and prosperity all the way for posterity in the far, far future. There are generally 8 actions that hopeful leaders, hopeful people conduct. But in the interest of time and in the interest of keeping this conversation focused on leadership and the step up track, I want to share with you just 4. These are the 4 actions of hopeful leaders. They honor their indomitable spirit, they build more leaders, they put people first, and they co-create the future. And in my remaining time with you, I want to quickly go through some practical ways that we can set these ideas into action. Starting with action number 1, honor your indomitable spirit. Celebrate your innate change readiness. Your very being in this room right now indicates to me that you are a lot more change ready, a lot more change friendly than you think. Do you have someone in your life that is so positive that is low-key annoying? That's the worst baby namer in history. That's my pops. You can see how annoyed I am with my dad. This guy is so optimistic, it frustrates me. So, pre-pandemic, he was running a thriving convenience store in downtown Toronto. March of 2020 rolls around, he's ordered to shut down his store and shelter in place. And my dad believes 2 weeks, we're gonna get through this. 2 weeks turn into 2 months. 2 months turn into 2 years. 2 years turn into however long it's been. My dad is still holding out hope that the downtown core will restore itself. People will go back to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. He believes this. He believes this. But he's not waiting. In the meantime, he's taken up all kinds of jobs. Uber, security, contracting. He is holding out possibility that a better and brighter tomorrow exists. He is tenacious. And what's frustrating is that he owns his home. He can sell this. He doesn't have to do this. But he wants to do this. He's truly animated by the work. And if you understand a little bit about Mustafa Khan's history, you'll understand why he's as tenacious as he is. He was born in squalor. I remember watching Slumdog Millionaire with him, and he walked out of the theater to just cry a little bit because of how overwhelming the reality was to his upbringing. He was born the eldest of 5 children in a house in Mumbai, and I describe it as a house, but it was one room with a public bathroom to an alcoholic and abusive father and a distant mother. And very quickly, Mustafa Khan went from an innocent, hopeful child to a tenacious adult. He became the breadwinner, lifted his entire family out of poverty, moved with my mother to New York where I was born. And if you now know that, then you understand that from his perspective, these last 5 years are a blip. He has outlasted much worse. In his mind, he actually believes, sincerely believes, that tomorrow is going to get better. This is his original medicine, the gift that Mustafa Khan can offer the world. He gives me hope in the future, and hopefully I can channel some of that and give it back to you. You all have original medicine. You all have something that is yours and yours alone to contribute to the world. Now, kudos to you if you know what that is. But if you don't know what that is, let's find out real quick. Complete this sentence for yourself. In spite of the chaos, I'm still. My dad would say, I'm still determined. I'm still committed. I'm still focused. I would say he's still tenacious. How would you answer this question? Complete the sentence, or rather, how would you fill out the statement? In spite of chaos, who are you still? I'm still steady. I'm still faithful. I'm still kind. I'm still positive. I'm still standing. Nice. Even after all this time. I'm optimistic. I'm blessed. I'm loving and kind. I'm pushing on. I'm obnoxious. Right on. That's the brat for you, right? I'm passionate. I'm alive. I'm funny. I'm determined. I'm thriving. Man, this makes me so happy. Know that no matter what happens from this point onward, that this original medicine is always available to you. You can always be this person. You are this person even at a subconscious level. When you sink to your level of training, whether it exists or not, this remains. So please celebrate your innate change friendliness. Know that this is always available to you, the original medicine. Martha Gellhorn is a legendary photographer and journalist who covered every major conflict in the 20th century. Just imagine the kinds of nightmares that she saw. And she said about the indomitable human spirit, the human spirit can be indomitable. And it is this rare quality that is not at all to be expected that makes survivors of us all, the human race in the grand scheme of things. So honor your indomitable spirit. And once you do that, then try to nurture the indomitable human spirit of the people, of the humans that report into you. Action 2 is to build more leaders by making yourself obsolete, as counterintuitive as that seems. Let me ask you a question. What is the worst leadership advice you've ever received? The worst leadership advice you've ever received. Keep on keeping on. Stay in your lane, put your head down, keep your powder dry. Do it yourself, be quiet, this too shall pass, ignore it. Pay your dues. Perception is everything. Wow. You got this. Oh man, I'm so sorry that people have said this to you. Keep your mouth shut. Jeez, please. I will only give you feedback when something is wrong. I've heard that as well. The worst leadership advice I ever received was actually one of the best pieces of leadership advice I ever received. And it came from this man, Alan Grant, a 6'5", 230-pound man built like a linebacker, but with the most gentle disposition. He was my first boss as a newly naked leader. And on day one, in my first ever leadership role, in my first ever one-on-one, the first set of instructions that he offered me were to make yourself obsolete. And I laughed out loud when I heard that because I was like, Alan, you can literally see my ink, the ink on my contract still drying. What do you mean make myself obsolete? And he says, you heard me. I want you out of this job by the end of the year. And I was stressing because it was September. I was like, Alan, what is going on here? He says, hear me out. When you make yourself obsolete, it'll presuppose that you've hired strategically, that you've trained effectively, that you've shaped culture, that you've co-created processes, that you've established succession, that you've removed obstacles, and that you've empowered others. And you know you will have succeeded in this endeavor of making yourself obsolete when you become hands-off. When you become hands-off, and I thought about this for a second, I was like, this makes sense for the team, it makes sense for the organization, but you know who it doesn't make sense for? This guy. Because I'm going to be out of a job soon. And I could not afford to be out of a job at that time. I was in a financially precarious position, I needed benefits, so on and so forth. I asked the question, what will I do? And without skipping a beat, Alan says, easy man, you're just going to build more leaders. You're going to create a culture of leadership. You're going to create systems of leadership. We will place you in different projects, different departments around this institution. You will make yourself indispensable. He said that becoming obsolete is not the same as becoming irrelevant. Now, like I said, I was very skeptical of this advice. I was in a financially precarious position, but there was something undeniable in Alan's eyes. There was a kindness. So I went ahead with it. And within 3 months, I was out of that job. And what I learned in those 3 months is that the very dynamics involved in making yourself obsolete are the exact same ones involved in leveling up in your career. And I've since leveled up the way that all of you have. I did not work again with Alan for 10 years. The next time I saw Alan was at the convocation address I delivered at my alma mater. And there he was sitting front row with the same look in his eyes. This is the man who told me, make yourself obsolete. And to his right was his boss, Lisa, who told him to make himself obsolete. And to his left is my dear mom, who in her own way told me to make myself obsolete when she said, Hamza, you're 30 years old, you gotta move out. Anyways, as we exited the convocation hall, I had the bright idea of asking them why they all in their own way insisted on this idea of making yourself obsolete. And they all more or less said the same thing. They said, because we want to help you become your best self. And it wasn't computing. Because I was like, Alan, you lost an employee. Lisa, you lost an employee when you briefly became my manager because Alan made himself obsolete. And Mom, I left you. So what was in it for you? And the answer they gave me, truly moved me. They said everything. And this all came together at my wedding. I could see that my mom got a happy son. I could see that Alan, there in the back, got a thriving protege. And Lisa got to live in a world where we talk about reinventing leadership with human-first values. She also got unlimited reggae requests at my dance floor. You have not lived until you've seen a hijabi lady twerking, I'm just saying. Now, the third action I have for you, once you decided to operationalize this idea of building more leaders, is to maintain it by adopting a people-first approach to your work as a leader. Put people first by embarking on a deep listening tour of everyone who composes your organization's value chain. Jung said, that which we most need to find is often where we're least willing to look. So brave your fears, face them head on, and ask your people from all walks of the organization. Ask your fellow leaders, ask people who are reporting into you, ask prospective clients, ask friends and ask family the tough questions. Ask them what's working. Honestly, what's not working. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are opportunities for growth? And what are threats to our communities? And while you're at it, ask the grandmother of all questions. How do we support life? It's a feature of many indigenous communities, including right here in the United States. The Iroquois have a practice known as grandmother councils that I think about all the time. A grandmother council is exactly what it sounds like. It is a council of people who are intimately familiar with perpetuating life several generations into the future. Anytime somebody wants to propose an initiative on behalf of the tribe, they gotta run it by grandma. And if grandma doesn't like the answer, she's sending you back to the drawing board. So ask your team, ask your people, how does what we do support life? And if you want to go pro at this, ask these questions to people that are not in the room. Simulate this next time you have a meeting. Leave an empty chair, leave an empty square, go around and ask, whose voice are we not hearing? But go beyond differences that are obvious and think about differences that are not obvious. I'm looking out at a very different room. There's differences here in terms of age, in terms of political ideology, in terms of marital status, communication style, neurodivergence, so on and so forth. Differences in people tend to positively correlate with differences in background, perspective, and experience, and that's ultimately what we want. Now, if you want to raw dog this, invite your biggest critic. I did this recently with my organization, and it gave us the breakthrough of all breakthroughs. But I will tell you from personal experience, it's quite counterproductive to actually invite your biggest critic to a leadership meeting. So you can simulate this. I partnered recently with ChatGPT, and I said, imagine that you are someone on my team, and you know that I've come to Workhuman, and you know that I'm so sincerely engaged with all of the lessons, and I'm excited to operationalize, maximize, implement everything. But yet, you are falling through the cracks. Write me the most angry, critical email you can think of. Ooh, man, it gave me this. I am going to spare you the trauma of reading this email. You are going to get a copy of the slides, but if I may just read this last line here. I'm sharing this because I believe you care. I just wonder if the people cheering your stage presence are the same person, or cheering your stage presence, see the same person we see when you're back in the office. Dude, that was hard to read. And so I'm taking this very seriously. Now the beautiful thing about this is we don't have to leave it at the problem. We can engage like a child would and ask, but how do we fix this? How do we make this better? What can we do? And so I asked ChatGPT, I said, now help me anticipate and mitigate this type of email proactively, what needs to be true. And it gave me a fantastic set of recommendations. I'm going to read to you just over here the summary. It said, to proactively prevent disengagement after implementing ideas from Workhuman Live 2025, you must go beyond inspiration and embody presence-driven leadership. Ultimately, if your team doesn't feel the human-centered future you envision, then your leadership remains a performance, not a transformation. Understood. I understand the assignment. Bet, we're going to make this happen. So I hope that you are also able to replicate this experience in any way that you feel comfortable. You can partner with AI, or you can just partner with the people around you right now and run through this exact same exercise. Illuminate your blind spots and improve your leadership. And when you do this, you will create the ideal conditions to do the fourth and final action that I'm so excited to share with you. It is to co-create the future by envisioning wild success. I want you to ask your team, what would happen if all lights were green? If we had all the resources in the world, what would be different about our work? How would we approach our work differently? And I did this recently. I did it actually with all of you, my fellow humans. I went through the agenda, and I took every session description, I took all the learning outcomes, I went through the app, all 1,215 companies represented here. I went on your websites, I took your purpose statements, your vision statements, your mission statements. It was a lot of work. I don't have a lot going on in my life, but I was able to combine it together, generate that word cloud, which I thought was fantastic, and I tried my best to imagine what the world would look like in 2045, 20 years from now, if we fully operationalize and maximize the learnings from this conference, if we all go home, if we all go back to our respective workplaces and say, we're here, we're going to do the work, and we want to create a better and brighter future for everyone, what would that look like? Believe me, it was a lot for my Paleolithic brain to comprehend. So I enlisted the help of a great machine deity known as ChatGPT. I knelt before the altar of our overlord and I said, oh great machine, how might life be better in 2045 if the HR champions, bold leaders, and change makers in attendance operationalize and maximize the confidence and insights to reach their company's North Stars? Imagine if all of the vision statements from our companies came true. The answer it gave me struck me to my core. I still can't believe this. When this happens, this could mark the beginning of the post-industrial, post-extractive, truly human era of work, one defined by care, creativity, shared prosperity, and dignity. Man, we should all just merge into one thing. And I'm glad you're giving yourselves a round of applause because this is not AI doing this for us. AI is just reflecting back to us what is already written by us, for us. It's taking information that I gave it that humans have written, and it has given us this beautiful outcome. But we have to approach this work like kids would. And a kid would look at that and say, there's too many words. How do we galvanize our people? How do we create a visual that stays with us, that orients us towards that North Star? I partnered with AI. I turned to the Picasso of pixels, DALL-E, and I said to visualize this in 16 by 9 Studio Ghibli style. Here's what we got. This is you. This is not the machine. This is humans at work. This is what we can expect by 2045. It's incredible. A life of leisure, of education, of adventure, of passion. By the way, they predict, based on all of our work, that we're going to become an interplanetary species by 2045. This is Workhuman live on Mars, by the way. That is not a David Gibbs suit, that's a Martian. And to keep it going, this is what New York is going to look like. There's UFOs in New York in 2045. It's getting a little scary. And I'm not usually struck by AI art, if you will, but these last two move me. This is what the conference could look like in the near future. To be seen is to be uplifted. And this one floored me. This one I stared at for a solid 5 minutes. How did it know to come up with this? The Great Resignation Museum. To leave the vices of the previous iteration, the time ghosts of previous workplaces in the past, so that we can move forward with care, compassion, and dignity. This is the turning point. Now I've got to ask, by a show of hands, when you see this array that you have created that is a reflection of everything that everyone in this room is striving toward, do you feel like this is more hopeful than the current zeitgeist? Okay. That's most hands. I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty. And I see that some hands didn't go up. And that's okay. I understand. I understand what it's like to show up every day feeling complete fear. I understand what it's like to show up when you feel hopeless. I know what it's like to lead without a feeling that tomorrow will be better and brighter. If I may just share a quick personal story with you. Last year, my wife and I experienced back-to-back losses. The first loss happened just before I mentioned Austin. It was a complete loss of innocence. The second was a complete loss of all hope. It took me to a place beyond burnout. It took me to a place below rock bottom. It took me to a place where wishes don't exist. And thinking it would revive our spirits, I booked us a trip to the happiest place on earth, Disney. Which in hindsight, huge mistake, completely re-traumatizing. And there I was, of all places, at the bar of the Disney Moana Polynesian Resort, and I had a scary thought. I thought that maybe I feel less afraid, I feel less pain, I feel more hopeful, I'd be more happy if I could just reach through the veil and meet my two little time ghosts. Scary thought, like I said. So I did what children do when they're afraid of the dark. I called a guardian. In this case, I called Mustafa Khan, the worst baby namer in history. I said, Pops, I'm really going through it. He said, what's up? I said, people need me. My team needs me, my colleagues need me, my clients need me, my wife needs me. I need me, and here I am running in the opposite direction. The first thing he said to me is, you're not alone. And he explained how, just before I was born, my mom and him went through the exact same thing. Which was so surprising for me to hear because my dad is such a beacon of optimism. So I said, Pops, how do you get through it? And he responded with one word. I think you know what it is. Together. Together. And last year, I understood the meaning of a proverb that you and I have seen hundreds of times before. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so my wife and I did just that. We started first with hope as a noun, and then hope as a verb. We honored our indomitable spirits. We put the relationship first. We co-created a vision of a better and brighter future, and every day we acted from the place of that goal. Daily imperative actions brought us closer and closer to that vision. And after many hopeful actions, if you know what I mean, I'm proud to share that in 2 months, we're expecting twins. It's like something straight out of a children's story. A divine reminder to always choose hope, even when it feels counterintuitive to do so. I sincerely hope that in the near future, I get to meet Sherry Ann. And I hope to show her pictures of Nora and Isaac. And I hope to ask her how work is going. And I hope Sherry Ann says something like this: darn cute, Hamza.